Good now time. Hello, everybody. Yolanda's here. Hello, hello. What does MHOM mean? I'm not sure. So I should take this off. I can't hear myself speaking. And Ben Anguis is here. Hello, Ben. Richard again. Hello, Richard. Richard. Twice. And Alexis Waters from Bulgaria. Oh, very nice. And Yolandi. Yolandi. Oh, I said Yolandi. And Claw's here. Claw. Echovian. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. Do something over here quickly. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, right. So, how is everybody doing? Luke's here. Hello, Luke. Glad you could join. Might head out momentarily, I think. Oh, okay. All right. Well, if you've got to leave us, that's fine. Go ahead. Just leave us. I haven't put the music on yet. Just get that started. Right. What am I doing today? Let's see what's on my day list. See if it's any good. David Bowie, Cream, Iggy Pop, The Doors, Led Zeppelin, and some older. Yeah, let's do that. That looks good. The Who's in there as well, so that's cool. All right. Not showing over there. All good. Oh no, not because you can't hear it. Hold on. No, I have to keep choosing this every time. I should just like do it automatically. There we go. We've got music. Although it looks a bit weird on sound thingy. Anyway. So, everybody's still quiet. All right. For anybody who is new to the Covenstead, who has not been here before, then this is just a place where we get together to discuss whatever you want to discuss. There's no chosen topic or anything like that. So if there's question you've got, something you're confused about, something you want to check with me or everybody else, then just put it in the chat there. Luke, yesterday I connected with Morgana Le Fay, then with Lady of Lake, and with her energy was okay, but then I connected with Mordred, and I feel like our energy didn't match. I thought it should. Don't know. These are all deities that are Arthurian in origin that I have not worked with and probably will never work with. So I'm really not sure. I'm not doing that. I needed to turn my volume down. Hold on. There we go. And Luke, you might also want to consider actually working on just basic energy work and not, working on yourself more than working with all of these spirits, because there's a lot that you include. And, you've got to really, work on yourself, work on your own energy body and everything else, because you could end up getting a little bit lost. Ben, silent meditation has led me to realize God's silence is our answer, if that makes sense. Yeah, it kind of does, actually. Well, the silence is the answer. I wouldn't say God's silence. I mean, it depends on we interpreting God, I suppose. But silence is the answer. Bringing ourselves into a no state, really. Alexis, Luke, don't feel discouraged. Maybe it was a one-time thing. You could try again to connect. And Luke said, I'm kind of surprised because my dog and Morgana work so good together, and from what I know, Mordred is also like this. So yeah, but maybe it's because I connected with him for the first time. My curiosity leading me to discover more and more. Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'm not saying don't work with spirits, but you do. I mean, that's all you talk about. So I'm just it's a bit of concern actually. Just that it's a bit like when people start working with the astral temple for the first time. The usual recommendation is to only spend short periods of time in the astral temple. The energy body, the energy flow that you actually need, because if you spend too much time, you end up just your energy from the physical just gets deprived and deteriorates, and you end up getting sick. And there was that thing with on TikTok a while back with young people. What was it called? They gave it a specific term, but basically it was creating astral temples, really, but fantasy worlds. They were going visiting like people from Harry Potter and stuff like that, and creating all these scenarios. And it got to what they were talking about. It got to the point where they were consciously going to shift themselves energetically into this other world and completely and utterly reject the physical. That means the physical body is going to end up dying. So just be careful that you are keeping balance with everything, and that includes balance working with yourself and your own energy bodies and everything else. And we have to keep these things in mind, because I know the astral temples, working with the spirits and everything else, can get really exciting and amazing, and you kind of that's where you want to stay. I get that completely. Just make sure you're keeping good balance with everything. Really, what I'm saying. Ben said, "I say God as in the cosmos, the all, etc." Just make sure I'm not frozen. I am frozen. Why am I frozen? What is going on? Can you hear me though? Because that's really weird. What's going on? Okay, let me just. Okay. Provided I'm assuming you can hear me, I'm going to try and fix my camera. Hold on, let me do this. I'm just going to switch it from one camera to another camera and see if that actually does the job. Okay, I think that did it. Yep, there we go. I'm alive. I'm moving. Hello. I need to sit up as well because I'm really slouching. God. Okay. Just let me know if that happens in the chat, because I don't like watching myself at the same time, so it's a bit weird. All right. Let's see. Where were we now? Ben said, "I say God is in the cosmos, the all, etc." Yeah, I know. I do know what you mean. Yeah. Which kind of means ourselves, our own silence. So yeah, Alexis said, "God's silence is our answer." Such a good and important statement, Ben. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I agree. Okay. Yolandi said, "Richard, is the dog going to let you go out?" Yeah, that's a good question. Claw, question about servitor creation prior to. Let me just make sure I'm still actually operational here. Prior to birthing a servitor, if you've been slowly feeding it daily with energy for a few days, do you still need to officially launch it on day 5, 6? You do. I mean, you don't have to make it that, like, you can. I mean, it's actually quite important. If you are aligning it with particular energies, planetary energies, or lunar cycles or something like that, yes, you want to, go through the process and launch it on a particular day. Yeah, sure. But do you have to? Yes, you do have to launch it. There's a particular process that the whole thing happens. It's like giving birth to a human being. You know, there's particular things you've got to do. You've got to go to, I wouldn't, but you know, the women, the people with a uterus um, would go to the doctor, would get all of the examinations done, would make sure that they're taking all the proper medications and all of that stuff, and then they have to you know, go through training and Le Mans and everything else, etc., etc., and then they have to go through the actual process of birth, whether that's a C-section or natural birth, whatever it looks like. So when you're birthing, you're creating and birthing a servitor, you have to go through all of those processes as well. You shouldn't skip one. Something that you will find often comes up, and if you work with servitors long enough, you'll probably see this yourself, is that when you are in the process of planning, before you've even started giving energy, you're just still in the process of planning the servitor, what it's going to do, all of the little pitfalls and things like that that might come up that you want to try and avoid and whatnot. So you're still planning everything. It does its job. It goes out and does its job because time's not real. It's you know, timey-wimey. So you know, you kind of, it goes and does its job and everything's completed and you're thinking, well, now what do? Do I still need to launch the servitor? And yes, you do. You still need to go through the process, still need to complete that cycle, because even though time isn't linear, the servitor has still been created and it's still gone and done its job. And that creation process, the steps you go through are that creation process. So you still need to go through that thing in order to keep everything balanced and the energies intact and things like that. So, yes. Short answer, yes. There you go. Richard, I was guessing what your acronym meant. Oh, is that what you was? I thought you were leaving soon. Might head out momentarily. Yeah, don't know. Could be. We'll have to find out. Luke, I have interesting question. From what I realized, when I connect with someone over time, this energy increases. Do you think it's worth it to spend like 2 to 3 hours or more with beings? Oh yeah, absolutely. And it doesn't necessarily need to be 2 or 3 hours in one go. You know, you can do it over periods of time. So you know, I think that's what you're asking anyway. If you know, you kind of do it in a like the 2 to 3 hour slot, one big go. You can. It's going to be quite intense and quite a lot of work and quite a lot of energy exchange. So yeah, I mean, my recommendation is to just spend a bit of time each day with a particular spirit. You know, in the mornings or the evenings, just sit down and share a drink, or just, you know, take 5 or 10 minutes and just talk to them. Tell them what your day is, and then spend like 5 or 10 minutes just listening. See if you get an answer. Cool, makes sense, thank you. Oh, it's a pleasure, absolute pleasure. I think I'm missing something over here. Anyway, if I am, it'll come up. Luke, many times I'm asking them if I should stay or is it fine to quit when I'm getting signals to stay. Some spiritual things, messages happened, which is great. I should stay. I'm not entirely sure what you are trying to get across there. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you're trying to get across there. Zanka's here. Hello, Zanka. Thanks for joining. Because you're saying you asking them if you should stay or if it's fine to quit. When you're getting signals to stay from spiritual things, then the messages happen, which is great. So you're asking them if you should stay, or are you saying is it fine to quit? But then you're getting the messages through. So I'm not sure. Not sure. I have to elaborate a bit on that, I think. Right. Okay, I think I'm all caught up with myself. Exactly. Sorry for making you confused. No, it's fine. It's fine. Did I'm assuming I understood it then. Jono, hello. Thanks for joining. Glad you could join us. There was actually something that came up and I thought was quite interesting in one of the comments earlier. I was going through earlier. It was regarding working with Clawneck, and the person was told that they should do the Bornless one right, and then chant or call the Clawneck's name 100 times. And I thought that was quite interesting, but there's something that I think people kind of miss there, and I think it might possibly be because they're not really understanding what the Bornless one right is. Bornless one right is something that Crowley did in Libas Samek and other places. He's also included it in the Ars Goetia and things like that. And so, it has to be this thing that we do. But the thing is, the Bornless one right is actually used mostly to call your holy guardian angel. And in the instance of working with the spirits, you do the Bornless one to call your holy guardian angel in order to be the gatekeeper, to kind of open the gate so that you can then speak to all the other spirits, which you find in a lot of sorcery and spirit work. And I think it's one of the things that kind of should be done. I think it is missing a lot in a lot of grimoires and work by everybody, but where it is missing, you can then use the Bornless one to call the holy guardian angel, which then becomes that gatekeeper aspect. But when you're talking about Clawneck is primarily from the Grimorian Verum, and in the GV, you've got Skirlin, who is the gatekeeper. So, the Bornless one really becomes you don't need it at all because the system already has its own gatekeeper. So I found that quite interesting that somebody would actually mention that, whether the people that told this person to do it actually knew what they were talking about when they said it. It'd be interesting to speak to them. Anyway. So yeah, anyway, just something to bear in mind. Yolandi, we still don't know what your acronym meant. You haven't told us yet. Right, so all the people in South Africa, I assume you now know that we don't. Load shedding stopped again. Till next time. I was actually supposed to have load shedding now, so I was going to experiment with the router to see if it actually, when it switches over, if it disconnect, or OBS, if OBS would disconnect me long enough to stop the live or not. But alas. Is everybody still here? My YouTube is way behind. Just watching myself, like, still explaining things. So I'm not going to watch that because that's distracting. Right, anybody got anything they want to talk about? I did just finish the Magical Revival by Kenneth Grant. Wow. Wow. Not in a good sense either. Oh, sorry, I'll switch the signals off on my WhatsApp, so I'll have a look just now. Richard, you can always unplug your router and find out. No, I didn't want to unplug it, and I wanted to put the I've got the power bank that runs the router when the electricity's off. So, but the problem is when the power comes back on after load shedding, it switches back to the tower that I connect to in the area. So during that switch, there's a bit of an interruption with the internet. But OBS should actually keep me going long enough to disconnect me and then reconnect me without disconnecting or stopping the live. So yeah. Alright, I'm gonna go check my WhatsApp now. Oh, that. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I only figured out that. No, okay. We'll leave it. Yeah. Do you think that, Luke? Do you think that our energy changing, especially soon after we connected to beings? Maybe it was the reason why mine and Mordred energy didn't catch because earlier I connected to Lady of the Lake. It's absolutely possible. It depends how you're working with the spirits. I'm personally I think this is a bit of a difference between working the spirit model or working the energy model. I do work with spirits a lot, but I'm an energy model person, not a spirit model person, because I bring their energies in so that I can resonate at that particular vibration. Whereas other people who may work the spirit model may not work with them in that same manner. They may work with them as in petitioning them, asking them to go do things, which is a very different way of working, and it's a different energetic connection and a different way of kind of energy exchange, I suppose we could say. So it's possible that what happened was you were working, your energy bodies were working closely together, and you started to vibrate, your own vibrational state shifted and changed, which meant that when you tried to connect with another spirit, that you couldn't really get that connection because you weren't in the same frequency type thing. But again, as I said, it depends on how you're actually working with them for the purposes and reasons and everything else. But yes, it is a possibility. Ben asked, bought a cheap bowl for scrying. What should I do to make it a working scrying bowl? So I would first just cleanse it and then dedicate it, consecrate it. So I usually just do fumigation, smoke cleansing, just get some smoke going, hold it over, just imagine all of the energies kind of going off it, bleeding off it, and going into the smoke away. And that kind of cleans it energetically. And then you can dedicate it to scrying, specifically scrying. Don't use it for anything else then. Yeah, so there you go. And then experiment with different fluids, liquids, put a drop of blood in, see how it swirls around. You can put some ink in, see how that swirls around, and patterns that get created and everything else. So yeah, really good, cool, it's good stuff. The Dianus Lucifero Temple. Hello, welcome. Talk about your boxes where you make offerings for the demons that you work with. So it's something I picked up very early, a long time ago, from Aaron Leach, and Rufus Opus also speaks about it quite extensively. It's kind of like the early days. when the people trying to work the Goetia, the Solomonic formats, just didn't really agree with them. Kind of decided that, we've got to find other ways to do this, more respectful ways to work with these ancient spirits. So the box, the spirit box, was one way of doing this. And as far as I remember, the way Oren Leach kind of explained this in his articles was very much sort of similar, connected to the idea of how African people work with the fetish, which is kind of like a wooden idol, which is usually connected to the ancestors. So they kind of call the spirit of the whatever they're working with, as I said, it's usually ancestors, but I'm not going to, say it's just that. Could be other things. But call the spirit into this idol. So kind of pocket work, actually. And then work with it that way. It's very similar to if you watch Hindu people do puja, and they enliven a statue with the spirit of the deity. I've done it myself, and it's really interesting to do, because you have this statue that just is fixed and doesn't move and do anything, and then you enliven it with the spirit of the deity, and it doesn't move. I mean, it doesn't physically move, although I have heard people say that they have seen this happen, where the statue actually gets up and starts walking around. I haven't seen that myself, but it doesn't physically move, but you can see it. It's like it's got life in it. So the spirit box is very similar to this. It's kind of similar kind of principle, where you have a box and you can then decorate it however you want to. You can put sigils on top of it, on the top or inside. I mean, if you are connecting a particular spirit with planetary energies, for instance, you can start adding the planetary squares and the sigils of the spirits and intelligences and all of that stuff. You can decorate the entire box and make it look pleasing and pleasant, and place where the energy of the spirit will want to go into to get its offerings. And then you can put offerings in, whatever that may look like for you, and you can agree to do that once a week or once a month for the particular lunar phase, even once a year. It depends on the agreement you make with the spirit, or what you decide. So you can put offerings in, you can put petition papers in, you can light candles on top of the box certain periods. So you do all these offerings and dedications and prayers, but everything focuses around the box. So the idea is you kind of put the energy of the offering and the prayers and yourself into the box, which this spirit can then come along and feed off the energy, and it becomes this offering space, this little altar, tiny little altar. I mean, a box can be like really, really small. And I've got these here, which are for the planetary energies themselves. I'm not going to open it, but inside I've got the intelligence. I put the intelligence on the bottom inside, and the sigil of the spirit on inside on the top. But it's got the planetary seal. It's got the planetary symbol for, obviously, Saturn. But I've got these little things that I can put little offerings inside. I can light candles on top of them. So but then I've got, show you the boom box. I've shown this to everybody before, so I did light a candle on it yesterday, so there's some green stuff on it. But this is my boom box, so it's just got that. It smells very nice as well. I'm not going to show you inside because that is a bit more personal. But that's the box, and it's a bigger box. You can put more stuff in there. You can do more with it. So you can do whatever with the boxes. They're great. I love working with the spirit boxes. Right, so I'm going to move on now. Claw. Another question about servitor creation, feeding. If you use sexual fluids and blood on a sigil, can you laminate the sigil first, so not to ruin it, and then clean the fluids, blood off it afterwards? Don't laminate it. I was actually talking about this with Kai on Friday. you know, they heard about somebody who'd created a talisman with paper and then laminated it. Don't do it, don't do it. Because what you're doing is you are, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why, but mostly you are putting the energy into the talisman and then you're covering it with plastic and you are trapping everything in. And, you know, whereas the paper itself has to have a particular life cycle, you are cutting off that life cycle. So don't laminate things. Please don't laminate things. There's probably some things that you might want to do it for that might make sense to do it for, but just really think about what you're doing before you laminate. I mean, you are sealing in and suspending life that shouldn't be suspended. It needs to complete a cycle, and it's got to then go through its whole process. And you know, that kind of stops that. So definitely, you know, if you are going to work with paper or any kind of material, and you're going to work with sexual fluids and blood, it's going to get messy. There's no way around that. And what you can do is you can, you know, if you want to focus on the sigil on an ongoing basis in order to connect with the servitor itself, then you can put the sigil on something else. Like I personally like to put on housing in stones that I get out of the river. So quite often I use stones. So I'll put the sigil, engrave the sigil onto a stone, and that becomes its permanent base. But during the creation process, I may want to use paper, because I'm going to add fluids and blood and everything else, and then I'm going to fold it up and I'm going to set it alight. I might leave it for a while so that everything dries and then set it alight, because obviously if you set that alight, it's very wet and it doesn't burn properly. But that sometimes becomes part of that process of how it burns. Have a look at patterns that it creates as it's burning and after it's burnt. Because if it's some parts are dry and some parts are wet, it's not going to burn completely through, so you're going to end up getting patterns. So that becomes quite a divinatory aspect to it. But yeah, there's, you know, you don't need to add the fluids, the wet fluids, to the sigil itself. They can be completely separate to the actual sigil, because the sigil is more of a visual representation that you are trying to transplant into the unconscious mind. So, you know, that can be over here and you can do everything else somewhere down below, type of thing. And if you are using sex magic, not even talking about servitors, but just purely sigil magic, if you're using sex magic with a partner, you might want to put the sigils everywhere, on the ceiling, on your partner's back, on the front of them, on their legs, depending on what position you end up getting in. When the transference, that liminal state happens, and the transference of the sigil actually takes place, you know, you might be in a position that you weren't expecting. So just put the freaking sigil everywhere and put it on luminous paint all over the person's body, type of thing. So, you know, it's mess around, play around, experiment with, and see what works and what doesn't work. That's really what everything boils down to. Luke, interesting. Mordred was probably like you really connected to me when energy of Lady of the Lake was in you, and you're expecting me to do something. That is possible, yes, because you wrote it there as the energy of the Lady of the Lake was in you, and therefore you were probably resonating at the same vibrational state. And then this other being, you want this other being to come along and kind of resonate at that same frequency, and you might find there's a bit of a difference, that they don't quite, you know, it's not like they are adverse to each other, but they don't quite mix properly. So yes, that's absolutely possible. That happened. Yolandi, can I create my own sigil to have tattooed on me for protection, or is that not advisable? Sorry, on me, not my. That's absolutely fine. Yes, you can. No, that's actually a very good way to go about it, because then you know what the sigil is at really for. But what I would do is I would test it first before you get it tattooed. So, just draw it on your body somewhere. Wherever you want to get it tattooed, just draw it with pen, with marker, and wear it for a period of time. See if it has the effects you want it to have. And if it does, go and get it tattooed. But just in case there's a bit of a problem, you might need to tweak things and whatnot, then, at least it's not permanent. You can remove it, you can tweak, you can try again, experiment, and then once you find the sigil that works for you, then you can go and get it tattooed. I think this is, something a lot of people do. They kind of, it's not even sigils that they've created, it's just sigils that they see everywhere. And sure, it might be something which is an ancient symbol for protection or whatever it may be. And, it has this history and everything else, and therefore they kind of tattoo it on themselves. Doesn't necessarily mean the energy of the sigil is going to combine with them quite well. I mean, I was reading it earlier, and this is going from, two extremes, really. Somebody who had been attuned to Reiki wanted to find out if anybody knew of a person who could remove the attunement. They knew that people in Germany do it, but where they lived, they couldn't find anybody. And people were asking, why do you want the attunement to be removed? And it's because as soon as they were attuned, their energy shifted and they got cancer and they were sick. And all of these bad things started to happen, whereas previously they were healthy. So they wanted it to be removed. And then people are coming along and saying, oh, no, Reiki can't do that because it's all energy of love. Oh, bullshit. It's energy. And when you take one energy and you combine it with your energy, it's going to change your energy. It's going to shift. It's going to become something different, especially when you are connecting to a certain current. And that might not be agreeable with your energy, even if Reiki is this loving, healing, intelligent energy. Sure, it is, but it doesn't mean it's not going to have adverse, or it's not going to be like love, roses and everything else for everybody. Some people can have negative reactions. So even if this old ancient symbol of protection combined with your energy might have adverse reactions. So if you're going to use magical symbols, rather draw them on yourself before you get them tattooed permanently, just to make sure that they're okay with your energy. Okay. Long answers. The Diana Lucifero Temple, that's amazing, thank you. It's a pleasure. Jono, Yolandi, I don't see why it wouldn't work, but it's permanent, so I imagine most people would advise you to think carefully before protection tattoo. Yeah. It's just one of those things, as I said, probably 9 times out of 10 you're okay, but just in case you're that 10% or even 1% that adverse reactions could happen to, it's better just to double check. John, I've got an evil eye bead I have had tied to my wrist for 4 years non-stop. I don't know if I want anything more permanent than that. Oh, that's actually really good. And obviously it's you're not getting too many attacks, because what usually happens is with any kind of protective jewelry is that it's if you get attacked and it's a really severe attack and it needs to do its job, it usually breaks and then you have to all new one. Ben, how do we create a working long-term sigil? Is it the same method as any other sigil? Yeah. Not everybody does it the same. My suggestion is the old-fashioned, create as many sigils as you can, and so that it's easier to forget the sigil. And then when you activate it or launch it, transplant it, move it over into the unconscious mind, you really don't know what the sigil is for. because you've got all of these sigils. You know, you're trying to remember which one's for which, and you just can't remember. It just makes the process easier. So then you do the sigil, you activate it, you destroy it, and you forget about it. And we do this, we suggest this simply because it helps to train the brain, to train the mind to not interfere too much. Because the problem is the lusting after results. So when we start working with sigils, it's usually a case where you create the sigil, do the launching, the activation, you get into that liminal state, you transfer, and you're doing everything perfectly right. And then you bring it straight back into the conscious mind, and you can't stop thinking about the sigil and if it worked and what it's going to do. And if it does work, is it actually going to do what I wanted it to do? And maybe I actually did it wrong. And all of these questions start to come into the conscious mind and interferes with the process and everything else. That's what usually happens. That's why we say destroy and forget. And then what happens is the mind becomes accustomed to not interfering. And therefore it becomes easier to create this long-term sigils but the process is exactly the same. You put it into the unconscious mind, so you launch it, but then you can draw it on different things. On protection, you can draw it on door frames, windows, you can close and open mirrors for portal work and things like that. So yeah, whatever the sigil is for. And you can add it into art as well. I mean, you can take a sigil and create an incredible artwork. Some people do that. It's fantastic works, absolutely amazing. Actually, getting to Austin Osman Spare's art, some wild stuff there, but it is largely focused on symbolism, which comes obviously into sigil work and things like that. So have a look for Austin Osman Spare. I actually need to do a good study of Spare at some stage. Go through all of his books and pick them to pieces. Richard. John, I've been wearing a similar thing and it has been working, but more permanent is not for me. Yolandi, Richard, I have a few tattoos and all have meanings for me. Sigil as a tattoo is perfect for me. I just wanted to know because sigil magic is usually short-term magic. No, this is the thing. I mean, as I say, we kind of talk in terms of it being these kind of short-term instant things, you know, which is what we use sigil magic for. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, because sigil magic, you can look at you can go into the Keys of Solomon, have a look at the pentacles, and you know, all of the planetary pentacles in there, and those are basically sigils that you work with for particular things, particular outcomes. So those are like your hundreds and hundreds of years old sigils that still have a function, they still work, they still do what they're supposed to do. And that's often because a lot of people are working with the same imagery, the same symbolism, and that symbolism has been added to this collective unconscious, if we possibly call it, like we want to bring a Jungian type of reflection into it. Yeah, no, I mean, we usually use it for that short-term magic. I often use servitors for more long-term stuff, but it really can be, a sigil can be created for long-term things, for protection, for good health throughout your life, and all of those things. In fact, I think when it comes to servitors themselves, it doesn't matter what spell work you do, what that looks like, you actually do create an energy body which goes and does what you want it to do, whether that's candle magic or doing a charm, whatever it is. I think we do create this body of energy, which in essence is a servitor at the end of the day. So, you know, it all kind of fits together somewhere along the line. Richard Yolandi, same here. I have some names on me and they have deep meanings and help a lot. Richard, I have a tattoo of one of my gods I work with that I got long before I became pagan. I only realised it after I converted, he was calling me all along. Jono, I don't know why many practitioners bake short life terms into workings. Just make a part of a spell design that the working will get stronger over time instead of weaker. At least it works. It can, but it also depends on the method the person's using. I mean, one method that I like to work with myself is short-term things and smaller things, but they are all part of a bigger goal. And it comes into the principle of working with sigil shoaling, really. It's the same kind of principle. So you have a robofish, which is kind of like a sigil, which it doesn't matter what happens, if the world explodes, it's still going to happen, still going to, do its job and come true, and it's not going to have any a sigil's kind of got a 50-50 chance of working or not working. This has got a 100% chance of working, right? So that's your robofish, and then what happens is you set up a shoal, and all of the sigils have to then, or they kind of create this or view this robofish as the alpha, and they kind of follow it, and they follow suit. Which means that there's more chance of all the other sigils then working, because they're trying to actually do what this robofish did, which is work, do its job, succeed, right? Getting off track here, hang on. So you have the robofish, you have all this shoal of sigils, and this whole shoal may just be for one particular purpose, one particular big goal. But what you've done is you split that goal into smaller little mini goals, and you then achieve these mini goals. And as you achieve them, each one is a success, and that success adds to the collective. And each one that succeeds just adds this successive energy more and more and more, and the likelihood of the other sigils then succeeding becomes bigger, stronger. So it really is just a way of working. It's a way I like working. So anyway, yeah. Dianus, I see Lucifer as a boy, around 7 years old. Do you know anybody else who sees Lucifer like that? I did at one stage. He was wearing a black suit. Yeah, was it black? Yeah, no, yes, was that Satan? I remember I was working with both at the same time. So I remember he was this little boy, around about 6 or 7, 8, somewhere around there, and he was wearing a black suit. And yeah, that's one particular Lucifer I've worked with. I've also worked with, if I do the path workings in Theodore Rose's book, it's kind of like a shadow figure. Earlier on much earlier on, before that, even before the boy figure, as the Lucifer traditional witchcraft aspects, the horn god with the flame betwixt the horns, that Luciferian figure was a horned god, and masculine. Now I work with a Lucifer in that traditional sense, which is the same. It's got there's horns and there's a flame betwixt the horns, but it's a woman. It's a feminine spirit. So yeah, lots and lots of different Lucifers. It depends what aspect you're working with a particular spirit in as well. So he also said that's the way he manifests on my dreams. Since I was very little, he didn't used to say anything in my dreams, and since 2 years ago, he is talking with me, and he revealed who he was. Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Nice. Very nice. Yeah. No, I mean, when we're talking about Lucifer, there's the Lightbringer. There's many of them. I think we all have a Lucifer, actually. It's just, I find that depending on what type of work I'm doing, I'll encounter, if it's a Lightbringer, I'll encounter a different Lightbringer for the type of working. Claw said that's very interesting about not laminating sigils and talismans. So when you feed a servitor with blood on the sigil, do you burn the sigil afterwards? and just use a new piece of paper every time. Yeah, I usually do. And what I'll often do is I'll add the ashes. If it is like a box or some house which can collect things, I'll often put the ashes into that. Um, like if I'm working with a spirit box and changing a petition once a month or something like that, just to keep things flowing and renewed and fresh and everything else. I'll take the old one, I'll burn it, I'll make the new one, and then I'll put the ashes into the box, so that the energy still continues. Yeah, that's what I usually do. Jono, here's one that's worked great for me. It wasn't even the biggest working to get it going, but I planted a spiritual protection tree at my folks' house, and it is bigger and stronger every time I see it. Absolutely. I mean, I remember I got a piece of, it was like a short little branch of a moonflower from Wilbus's wife, Gloria. And she was extremely magical. I mean, she was probably one of the most magical people you could ever meet, and connected, so connected to nature and plants. Incredible, amazing. I mean, their garden. Oh my word! It's just just mind blown. Seriously, every time I went there. But anyway, I got this little branch, and she said, put it in some water, let it root a bit, and then plant it on this particular phase of the moon and everything else. And I did it, and I put it. We didn't have a very good garden. Nothing really grew. Don't really have a green finger and everything else. Anyway, I did everything. I put it in the ground. This thing grew so fast that it couldn't support itself, so it fell over. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to trees and plants and things like that, and you're adding spirits to them, or adding energies or servitors or elementals or whatever, there's some really wild things that start to happen. But yeah, I mean, if you are going to create something for protection, um, ward four corners of your property, put wards, elementals in trees on four corners of your properties. That's some serious. That's really good stuff. So yeah. Jeff's here, hello, and Sam is here also, hello. Have you ever had haunting experience after a ritual? Tell me what you mean by haunting experience. Because when I think of haunting, I think of disembodied spirits and ghosts, and I have a particular thing where they don't like to stick around me because they automatically pass through to the other side, and usually they don't want to. So they kind of, every time I walk into a haunted house, all the disembodied spirits, the ghosts, kind of disappear until I leave again. But yeah, uninvited guests. No, not really. Because I do my proper protections and cleansings and banishings and everything else. If I do feel energies are a bit strange, I'll do a banishing. But usually I do a banishing. If it's a serious work where I'm calling some serious spirits, I'll usually do a banishing before and after, just to clean the space. So no, I don't really have that problem. And it's something you should be doing. It's something that's foundational. We all should be doing keeping our energies clean, our spaces clean, and doing our protection work. It's part of magic. It's part of what we should be doing before everything else. Diana, so could you make a video teaching how to make these boxes? It would be lovely to have a step-by-step, do something similar with jars, but I love the box idea. I actually did, not sure if I actually did a step-by-step, but I did speak about it on my Patreon. Obviously, I've got tiers on the Patreon and kind of stuff I put on there and people pay for, so I feel a bit weird kind of making things public that people have paid for, but I'll think about how I can do that. If I didn't need to pay rent and stuff, I'd just give you everything for free. It wouldn't be a problem. But unfortunately, we live in a capitalist society, and I've got to buy food and pay rent like everybody else. Bugger, really is. Um, yeah, I'll think about how we can do that. Otherwise, join that Patreon. The journal, I actually show a lot in the journal tier. It's $5 a month. I don't know if that's affordable or not. But, yeah, anyway. Um, let me just go down to Sammy over here. Tell us about your banishing process. Okay, I'll tell you about that just now then. Jeff, a crazy energy after a ritual. Yeah. See, that's the thing. If you're doing your proper banishings and centering and grounding and everything after a ritual, you shouldn't be getting that. I did have one experience. It's not energies or spirits or anything like that that kind of lingered behind and affected me, but I did have one where um, I was experimenting with a particular circle or sacred space creation where you actually expand your eighth chakra. That's the way I understood it anyway. People kind of, other people may speak of kind of expanding their aura to a particular um, perimeter. Anyway, a ball, a sphere around you which is protected. And I forgot to close it afterwards. So I was walking around in this sacred space, and it was so, because I was moving, shifting everything around and moving the energy where it shouldn't have gone, because I kind of pushed all this energy out into a ball into the room. And now I'm walking around normal spaces, and it's like I was walking to walls, I was tripping over everything, and I couldn't figure out what the hell was going on with me. And then I remembered I forgot to close it, so I went back and closed it, and I was fine after that. That was quite interesting, but not really spirits or ghosts or anything like that. Yolandi, it's like my decorative pomegranate tree that isn't supposed to be taller than 3 meters, and the fruit is supposed to be non-edible. Mine is at least 4 meters tall and carries fruit you can eat. Yeah, depends on the. I suppose maybe the genes have just changed or something back to its original state. I don't know. Okay, so Sammy, tell us about your banishing process. So mine is kind of simple, really. It's one I created that is a cleansing type of ritual, which incorporates well, qigong cleansings, really, and then balancing of energies, the trigrammaton, vibration, and everything else. Um, and I use it every day just to cleanse myself, just cleanse all energies, negative energies off me. But I can use it in ritual because it's got a blast, it kind of pushes everything out. If you use it in a ritual space and you push everything out and you kind of reset all the energies in the space. But that's really what you're trying to do in this process. If you are doing a ritual, you want to start off by cleaning the space, and what that means is resetting all of the energy so that it's blank slate, and then you do your whatever circle casting or compass creation or whatever you're doing. In this case, using banishing rites, usually ceremonial, and uh, you know do whatever you do, whatever tradition you're working with, and everything else. But that's what you're doing. You're resetting all of the energy in the space, and then you do your work. And then when you're finished, you need to reset everything again. You should. I mean, during the process of closing or opening the circle, if you are, deconstructing the circle. Let's use that word rather. You should be releasing all of the particular energies that you have been working with, and the spirits and the energies and everything else, and sending them away, and giving them a good departing. But some energies might linger, so then you want to do it again and reset your space, and then you want to ground and center. Usually you do this before and after as well. It's banishing, grounding, and centering. So you do all of that, ground and center, do a banishing, and then at the end you banish, ground, and center. So you bring your energies back to normal. And that's what you should kind of, if you're doing those serious rituals, the big ones, that's what you should be doing in that anyway. Dianus, how can I join the community? I'll pay for it. Oh, just go to Patreon. Um, the link, if you check out the link at the bottom there, it's patreon.com/Lee W. Johnson 164. And then if you want to start with the journal tier, that's the $5 one. I speak. It's the journal tier is kind of like what I'm doing magically. And I did include the boombox because I did an experiment with it last year and started in January to see how things went with it. So I kind of kept up with that. So I'll speak about that quite a bit in the beginning. So you might have to go right back to the beginning of all the posts. But yeah, so the journal is just what I'm doing magically. Things I'm up to, developments and whatnot. So yeah, I'm gonna have a join of that one. It's quite fun. The Fat Muppet. Hello, Fat Muppet. Do you drink a lot of beer while doing a ritual? I don't drink, actually. Not really much at all. No, I used to. It wasn't beer, it was actually ale. I used to do a lot of offerings with ale to the gods. And during those offerings, I would drink it myself. Because, if it's good for them, it's good for me. If it's good for me, it's good for them. So, yeah. But I don't drink much anymore, actually. Ben, I started growing garlic after putting a drop of blood on the bulb and offering it to Hecate. Less than a week later, it was sprouting, so I planted it. It's now over a foot tall. Cool. Can I use it to create a servitor? Yeah, why not? Put an artificial elemental into it, and to make it like an air elemental or something that protects your property, your house. Just also, I say I'm not a plant person. Some people argue with me about that. But just check on the qualities of garlic itself and what representations, characteristics, correspondences, and things like that. Because there might be something specific within that, you can combine servitor with the spirit of the garlic plant, and kind of so that they work along or with each other to do a particular thing. Give that a try, give that a look, see what you can find. Regan, hello Regan, I love you, Daddy. Oh, thank you. Too mature. I'm always calm whenever I see you. That's good. That's good stuff. Gills. Oftentimes in mornings I get this pesky feeling of something pulling my soul and irritating me. Is this psychic warfare with someone? To clarify, this kind of wakes me up, cuts my sleep short. Happened this morning again. I don't know. You'd have to probably do some divination to find out what it is. Because it could be, if it's in the mornings, early mornings. I mean, I'm talking about like an hour or so just before you're supposed to wake up. It could be that you're astral projecting, and it feels like there's something that's pulling, sort of trying to pull you out of your body type of thing. You could be going into a hypnopompic state. We talk about hypnagogic or hypnagogia, which is kind of like that between state when you're falling asleep. That's when you're falling asleep, going from wake to sleep, and you get into that liminal kind of state. And that's often where people find that they go into sleep paralysis and things like that. And that's quite terrifying because you're supposed to be going to sleep and your body goes to sleep, your brain stays awake. When you're waking up, the same thing can happen, but it's not as terrifying. And it's usually called a hypnopompic state, which you are coming out of sleep. Not really sure why it's called hypnopompic, actually. But anyway, yeah, doesn't make any sense to me. But then the same thing could be happening where you're in a liminal state, in that between state of being asleep and awake, and you are therefore, what's happening is, if you're going to sleep, your brain's still awake, but your body goes to sleep. Same thing, really. Your body's still asleep, but your brain's awake. Maybe the other way around. I'm not really sure. I don't think of this now. I don't remember which way this goes. Anyway, what I'm trying to get at is that you're probably in that liminal stage, and what's probably happening is it feels like you are being pulled, whereas you're still in a half sleep stage, or you might be astral projecting, and you're actually starting to wake up, and you might be trying to, get back to your body, but it's not quite there, so it feels like you're being pulled out, whereas you're actually trying to pull yourself in. A few possibilities. I'd get your pendulum or cards or whatever method you use for divination, or if you've got somebody you trust with divination, just go and speak to them and find out what it actually is. If it is a spirit, or if it's just something that's happening when you are in that between wake and sleep state. Sammy, is frankincense oil effective in rituals from your experience? I love frankincense oil and the resin. I love frankincense for everything. I use it in all my cleansings. I just love frankincense. if there's no like particular recipe to, because I'm at the moment I'm creating all these planetary incenses, and it's these recipes, so that it's a lot of other things as well. But if there's no particular recipe, or I kind of look at the correspondences and it's frankincense, I usually just pick up frankincense. I just love frankincense. I love the smell of it. It creates a nice amount of smoke. It's like not too much. When you burn copal, and there's just like floods, just one little stone of copal, and just smoke everywhere. Frankincense is not too bad. A smoky room can be a very good thing in ritual and magic, but if it's a bit too much, I usually end up coughing. So I don't want too much smoke in my ritual space. So frankincense, I just love frankincense, and the oil's fantastic. And you can use it for blessings, for consecrations, for anything really. I mean, you could make abromelin oil, for instance, but frankincense, I think, would just do the same thing. Yeah, it's marvelous. Regan, which words should I use to summon Leviathan or my own meditation? Just use the N. No, I can't think of it. It's kind of like when you get pressured and you can't remember anything. You'll find it. Start with Jedan. Jedan, Tassa, Baraka, Bias. No, that's Lucifer. Hold on. I will find it. I'm getting Lucifer mixed up with that one. It's Jedan, which means water. First of it. Jedan, Tassa. Come on. I know somebody knows it. Help me out. I'm just going to go to over here. A lot quicker. Well, I say that, and then it takes bloody ages. Right, no, not there. Right there. Jaden, Tassa, Hoet, Naka, Leviathan. There we go. Bloody hell. Took a while. Yeah, I would just use that. Just use the N. I like using the N's. I think they're fantastic, and I'm absolutely. I really do thank. What's her name? Connolly for introducing us to these N's, because I think they work amazingly. They really do. Sammy, thank you. It's a pleasure. Ben. Yes, there you go. Richard gave us, and Diana's gave us. There we go. Thanks for helping. just I just drew a blank. Ben, how what's that? Yuppie? Yup. Are, are you with frankincense is how I am with patchouli. Really, I actually don't like patchouli. That's strange. Yeah, just really don't like patchouli at all. So, oh, but you know what is my absolute favorite fragrance? Oh, ylang ylang. I just I had to get a whiff of that, and I melt. My legs just start to shiver. I just love it. It's actually amazing. Um, Claw, what's your preferred method of divination, and what's your opinion about pendulum dowsing and the reliability of the method? Thank you. My preferred method is pendulum, actually. I'm not a diviner. I can read cards, but it's just never been an interest for me. But at the same time, I do know that I need divination methods. I do like geomancy. I wouldn't say I'm very skilled at it, but the pendulum is the one I always go to, and I think it's extremely reliable. There is a great, I'm going to find it. Let's just get the link. If anybody does know the link offhand, just let me know. It's the Letters to Robin. It's a brilliant free manual. It's absolutely fantastic. Where we go? No, I'll find the link over here. Diana's Ganesh loves Ylang Ylang. Oh, really? I didn't know that it was Ganesh like Ylang Ylang. I do like Ganesh. I've got a Ganesh statue over here. It's my little Ganesh statue. I love him. My favourites, pray to him every morning. Go over here. Yeah, so the Letters to Robin, it's this guy who created a manual to train the pendulum, and it really is fantastic. I only found this out about this quite recently, actually. So actually, I was kind of upset that I didn't find or discover it when I was learning pendulum. Here we go. Yeah, go if you're interested in pendulum, go and give that a read. It really is fantastic. And the thing with pendulum is you can do so much with it. I mean, you don't just need to stick to the yes, no, maybe, ask again type question. You can create a spirit board with letters and numbers. You can add seasons to it, Sabbats, everything to it, and let it swing in particular directions. I wonder if I can find Peter Paddon's explanations of pendulum, because he did 2 videos and they were brilliant, because he goes into how you can use them to divine for different materials in the land, and you can actually kind of set knots at certain distances that represent the meters that go down, and you kind of keep going further and further along the knots to find the distance under the ground where the material that you're divining for is. It's fascinating stuff with pendulums. And Peter Paddon, Peter Paddon was just one of my absolute favourite people. He was a master, he was brilliant. Yeah. I hope it was labelled. It's one of these podcast ones. I think it was these ones. but it's not properly labeled. I'm gonna put these two URLs into the chat, but no, that's that one. It's two videos, but if it's not these, then just go through his other videos and see if you can find them, because they're really, really good. That's part one, and this is part two. This was back when you'd only do like, I think it was maximum of 15 minutes on a YouTube video. 17 years ago. Oh my god, I'm an old fart. Alright. Alright, so go and have a look at those, because they're really, really good. I enjoyed those. As I said, I mean, if you're interested in traditional witchcraft, go through Peter's stuff. And if you can, I don't think it's available online anymore, but if you can find it, go through his Crooked Path podcast. There was like 122 episodes as far as I remember, and it was fantastic. I mean, he really, really knew his stuff. He was amazing. Okay, now I've lost my place. Diana's Jay Ganesha, what a beautiful statue. Thank you. Yeah, no, I've had that for years. Love it. Andrew, I'm all-time FaceTime. Where is that? Did you see I've got the little widget in the corner now? So you can see what song it is, and I don't have to go back and tell you. Find out for yourself. Right. Oh, and hello, Andrea. Thanks for joining. Didn't see you there. Alright, is this the quiet moment? Everybody's gone quiet again. We're all thinking. Randy saying hello to Andrea. Don't fear the Reaper. Yeah. Don't be fearing the Reaper. Oh, and if you are, just coming back to Peter's stuff, if you do find this interesting, here the publishing company created, Pendragon, is still going. So if you're interested in some of the books, because he interviews some authors on his YouTube channel, you can still go and get those books. His own book, Grimoire for Modern Cunning Folk, is absolutely brilliant. One of my favourite books. Get that as well. Yeah, I've seen he interviewed Radomir Aristic quite a lot. Yeah. Right. Where are we now? What are we doing? I'm just going to sip my hot chocolate there. Yolandi said I need to get back into my studies, but I have too much on my plate at the moment. Yeah, no, don't try and force, your studies and things like that when you do have a lot to do, other things, mundane things. The cycles that we go through, and sometimes we just need to sort out particular energy flows in some areas in our life before we can get back to other things. I always do it. I try and force myself to do all of this studying, magic, and all this stuff, and I should listen to the cycles. I keep telling other people to do it. I'm really, really bad myself. I don't listen to my own body. I don't listen to the cycles that are going on. I just keep pushing myself forward. Bad me. Let's see, Zanka, I have to go now. See you next time. Okay. Well, I'll see you during the week anyway. But have a good one. Fat Muppet, how do you know you're not just imagining all this? It's a good question, and it's a very, very valid question. What happens, what you do find is that you have these experiences as you keep doing it, and they're just experiences. I mean, you try and explain it to somebody else, and they don't mean anything to them. But there are experiences that you have that just blow all doubt out of the water. It's the only way you can really explain it. Talking to spirits, you may think, oh, it's just me, I'm imagining it, I'm just, making everything up in my own head. And then one day, you keep doing it, you keep practicing, you keep trying, you keep going for it. Maybe one day I won't be imagining it anymore. And then one day you get this response that you just wouldn't have thought about in a million years. And it kind of gives you confirmation that you're not just imagining it. And at the same time, depending on worldview, you could be imagining it, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. All of the spirits that we talk to could be our own mind, parts of our own psyche that we are connecting to and activating at particular times. And therefore, we're talking to spirits, but it's only parts of our psyche, and therefore we are really talking to our imagination that's talking back to us, and that's nothing wrong with that, actually. So it depends on worldview, it depends on how we view things, and our own experiences. In some cases, yes, some people could be delusional, and they could be talking to themselves and hearing voices and thinking that they're talking to other spirits. They're not. It's unfortunate, and this is why we're always emphasizing, make sure that you are treating any mental health issues you have, make sure they're being treated. So you don't want to go down those kind of roads. Claw, thank you for the links, Lee. I'll check them out. I've been using the pendulum for a few years now, but lately I've started to doubt the reliability of the responses. It happens in not just the pendulum, with all things. You will start doubting yourself. It kind of comes along with, usually when you start doubting your own magic and it's not working anymore, it usually comes along with a dark night of the soul process. So it's possible you're going through something like that, and it's absolutely fine. Let yourself go through those cycles and processes, and see what happens on the other side. But just think about it, keep thinking about it. Andrew said, hi Richard. Gills, have you had an OB? Tell us about it. I have had a few conscious OBs I've actually done. It's not an area that I'm very skilled at though, and it's something I've always battled with. And lucid dreams as well. The ones I remember, the first one, no, it wasn't the first. I had several before then, but I can't really remember them. I do remember the one where I was, all of a sudden I was flying through my kitchen, down the passage, through into my bedroom, and saw myself lying in the bed, and got a fright. That's usually the case. I did have a lucid dream that I couldn't wake up from, and that was really annoying, and it started to get a bit terrifying after the 10th time. But what was happening was I would wake up and get out of bed, and then realize I'm still dreaming, I'm still in bed. So I get back in bed, go back to sleep, and then wake up and get out of bed, and I'm still dreaming. And this happened over and over and over again. And as I said, about the 10th time, I thought, that's it, I'm going to die. I'm not going to be able to wake up ever. And I had to force myself to actually get up, wake up, and consciously wake up and stand up, which was actually a very interesting experience. And then I had, my favorite one was when I actually, you do the roll method to get out of your body. And I did the roll method. I was lying on my right side, and I rolled over to my left, And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm out of my body because I could actually feel myself come out. And then I thought, okay, stay calm, because otherwise you're just gonna like freak out and wake up. So I stayed calm, and then I thought to myself, okay, I need to now come off the bed and float. The problem was I slid, like it was like I was like liquid, and I slid all the way down and onto the floor. It's like that, like liquid, like jelly. Really, and then I woke up. Um, I keep having those experiences where I kind of get out and I roll out, and then something stupid happens. Like I slide off the bed like jelly or something like that. So it's always been a problem. Something I'm still working at, and I probably will be working at for a very long time before I get it absolutely right. But yeah. Um, Dianus, what is your opinion about using weed during magic work? I'm not a fan of it. Because, and it probably just a personal thing, I start to disconnect too much when I smoke weed. I can't hold patterns together. Like if I have a conversation, and I usually end up having like 2 or 3 conversations at the same time. But what happens is everything fragments too much, and the last time I smoked, um, I kind of saw everything as these kind of, it was almost like sticky papers, and there were bits of the conversation that was written on them, formed on them, but only portions, and they were all like fragmented and split and mixed up, and I had to try and put them all together in order to complete the conversation. It was just, if I was to use that magic book, I wouldn't be able to get anything done, seriously. But if it's a case of you just kind of get relaxed, it could work to bring you into a trance state. The problem then is that if you are using it to induce a trance state, don't use other methods to induce trance states. Because each method you use for trance state has a particular configuration to it. And if you start combining different methods, you end up just kind of blowing everything out the water. Yeah, I think it depends on how it affects you. There is obviously the problem with weed that it does affect your dreaming. Some people, not everybody, but it can affect dreaming, and therefore it may, not saying it will, but it may, it's possible that it could affect any kind of visualization processes you're going through. So I don't know. It seems to affect everybody differently, to some degree, and for one person it could work, for another person it might not. It's a bit of an unpredictable substance, to tell you the truth. And apart from weed, I haven't actually used anything else. I don't use hallucinogenics or entheogens. I might do in the future, but it was just one of those things I decided not to do while I was raising my daughter. Just in case anything bad happened and I ended up dead. I didn't want that to happen to her, so maybe I will in the future. I don't know. We'll see. Fat Muppets, have you noticed the sensation in the stomach when those things happen? Which things are we talking about again? Are you talking about when you're talking to spirits and you're not sure if it's your imagination or if you are doing OBs? Just let me know. Not sure which part of the conversation you're at. Just adjusting. My backside. Purely at the moment, everything is upside down, and I don't have any trust in my abilities. I'm getting a feeling that there is going to be a death of someone close to me, and I know who it is, but not sure. Yeah, I know. If it's right, I'm in a confused state. You will be. And as I said, just go with the cycles that are happening at the time, and don't try and force them out, and don't try and force other things on. You've got to honor what's happening at the time. Gills, what are your thoughts on drugs and using them in rituals? Yeah, it's, as I said, it's a bit difficult for me to talk about because it's not something I've actually done myself. Um, Apart from some very light stuff. I mean, I've made a wormwood and mugwort flying ointment. It's not really, it's not the belladonna and henbane and mandrake type ointments. So I haven't really done that myself. I can't really speak about it. In some cases, it works really well, but as I said, if you're going to use it as a trance induction method, just don't combine it with other trance induction methods, unless you know they're going to actually work together. If you are, for instance, taking an entheogen and you're doing it with a group and you're doing it with somebody who can actually take you through the process properly, you should have a leader to take you through the journey and bring you back again. Um, then they will probably know that this particular entheogen they're using works well with drumming, and then you ride the drum through the experience and things like that. So, but if you use different trance induction methods that don't quite fit together, you could end up in a really bad place, especially if you are in the influence and being taken by entheogens. So just know what you're doing, be careful, and my advice would be to seek somebody out who definitely knows what they're doing and get their advice and get the training you need, or allow them to actually take you through. And they really, really do have to know what they're doing. Not some person who comes along and says, "Oh, I'm a guru and I'm a shaman and everything else, and I will take you on these journeys and trips, and we'll discover your childhood memories and all that stuff," and then they don't really know what they're doing. So yeah, be careful. Fat Muppet, yes, what you said. That's such all of it, really. All right. So, what was the question again? Have you noticed sensation in your stomach when those things happen? In my stomach. If it's spirit related, I usually feel it in the back of my neck. Um, don't really have a sensation in my stomach. I sometimes feel it in my chest. I will sometimes feel it in my groin. If the energy is connected very much with the root, or even the lower dandian area, I'll feel it in my. Yeah, you're probably feeling it in the lower dandian area. Yours is probably stomach. Maybe not as high as solar plexus. Mine's sometimes a bit lower. I'm probably a bit more. I'm a very grounded person, so I probably feel a lot more in my root. The energy flow inwards. So it's possibly the same thing. Could be. I lost my place. Regan, take me as your student master. Well, I do have the temple tiers on Patreon. I want to go join that, and obviously that depends on what you can afford. There's 3 different tiers there. So join up on Patreon, and then you can start with it. It takes you through it. I think it's brilliant. I'll ask Ben if he's still here, because he's been through the entire first degree foundational training. Did marvelous, absolutely marvelous. Yolandi, but I've had an experience where it felt like a real band around my stomach that wants to pull me back into my body like a slingshot. I hope you understand what I'm trying to explain. Yeah, that's kind of like when you are out of your body and you get pulled back in. That's the same thing we're talking about. If we are talking about an OB experience, but that's also the falling experience, or the falling feeling that we get when we're in dreams. We feel like we're falling. It's kind of like the astral body kind of rushing back into the body. It's usually how it's explained. And that, yeah, that falling experience. You see, I usually feel those things more in my solar plexus chest area rather than my stomach, actually. Think about it. And it's actually a very important thing to recognize when you have these different feelings, sensations in your body, what it is related to. Because at later stages, you may need to actually recall those feelings and sensations to add to your magical practice. So it is a good idea to check where all of these different sensations actually happen in the body. Gills, is Tai Chi worth learning for the purposes of increasing one's life force chi? Oh, absolutely. Ask Richard, who's a Tai Chi master. If he's still here, maybe he can respond. But yeah, no, Tai Chi is amazing. I'm more of a Qigong person. Same principle, really. Yeah, Richard said definitely yes. Helped me a lot. You know, there's various different disciplines we can call, I suppose, moving meditations, which work with your energy body, and they actually get the chi, the life force flowing properly through your body, through all the meridians, and unblock all those blockages, and which then feeds through to your physical organs, and your skin and everything else, keeps you healthy. And there's Tai Chi, Qigong. There's also Castaneda's tensegrity is amazing. I think I spoke about this last week. Um, tensegrity is brilliant because it's the movements are just so cool. You kind of smash up the energy. You really kind of like throw your fists around and stomp your feet and smash up the energy, and then you grab it and you like pull it over and put it into particular areas and rub it on your um, vital centers. And it's just it's a very physical kind of exercise or energy practice. But then there's yoga. Yoga's a really good one. And not the same, when we talk about yoga, I'm not talking about Western yoga, which is all about, getting fit. I'm talking about yoga, which is union. Um, that's, I think that's a very different practice to what they're doing in the gyms. Um, and also there's Falun Dafa. A lot of people have a big problem with Falun Dafa because there's a lot of controversy with the Chinese government and everything else, and the leader of Falun Gong, Falun Dafa. But it is a very the practice itself is very interesting, and it's simple, it's easy, and it's straightforward. But the energy, you can feel the energy flow really, really well. Um, so it's Falun Dafa. I think that's it. Can't think of any others. Did I say? I said yoga, Falun Dafa, integrity, qigong, tai chi. There's probably others, but I can't think of them. That's the ones I know anyway. They're all brilliant. They all um, work with the energy body and the flow of energy through the different bodies, and yeah, it's really good. Yolandi, I used to be good at Obe until I ended up in a place I didn't want to be, and built a kind of block up. I'm starting to practice it again. Good. I've got a block myself. I had a near-death experience 20, 24 years ago, almost 25 years ago. And I think that kind of, I don't know why. My logical brain says there's nothing wrong with it. It shouldn't be a block and everything else. But I think still subconsciously somewhere down there, I kind of like, there's something that says if I come out of my body, I'm gonna die because of the experience I had. So something I've got to get over. But I'm always so busy with everything else. I don't really focus on the one thing. Bad. Me, bad again. Richard, definitely yes, helped me a lot. Gills, how long does it take to learn enough to gain value? Richard said at least 3 months, but usually 6 months to a year with a good teacher. I'd agree with that, yeah. In fact, I've heard if you practice every day for 6 months, then you can say that you've actually practiced. without, every day without a break, for 6 months. Yeah. So it does take a while because, especially in the beginning, you've obviously, you may be in a state, and this is coming back to tensegrity, you'll see this a lot. You're probably in a state where you do have blockages, or your energy is kind of stagnated somewhere, and it takes a while to get that energy moving again, and all the blockages broken through and all of that stuff. So it can take 6 months to a year just to get that sorted out, and then you keep it going. Randy, I did gym yoga once. I sounded like a Rice Krispie. Snap, crackle, pop. Yep. The problem with gym yoga is it's just for fitness, and that's not what yoga is supposed to be about. It's just fitness is like a side effect. Yeah. Oops, sorry. What my desk. I'm just going to call you me. There you go, because you wrote it there, me. If that's okay. It's easier. Hi, one of my dreams was visited by Boone. She kind of was almost invisible, not well enough, or didn't hide totally from me, but I did notice it was her in her Egyptian form. And I was following one of your advices on relationship to demons. I do speak to her in my thoughts, telling about things, telling update, and so on. Yeah, the Egyptian form's actually interesting. Actually, let me know which Egyptian form she presented herself as, because I'll be very interested in that. And I say that because my own personal association with Boone has a connection. She's a facet of Hecate. That's how she's presented herself to me, anyway. And Hecate has an Egyptian, speculative Egyptian manifestation in Hecate. So I'd be interested to hear a sort of a Cleopatra-like. That's interesting. Yeah. Definitely see that she is beautiful. I mean, when she came to me in visions, well, all the aspects that a goddess of her type would really be. Yeah, I don't know. I'm off into dreamland now. Fat Muppet. Sorry, if you had a question, just let me know. I think I've finished there. Yeah, no, it's good to build relationships with them. And it creates a stronger bond, and work with them then becomes obviously easier. The Fat Muppet, what do you think gnomes are? Are they real small bearded men in pointy hats living in the woods? They are real. They are mythical creatures. They live in the earth itself, and when I say earth, I don't mean like they're kind of like burrowing through. They are the earth. Their energy. They live in an energy form within the earth. If you speak to the elemental king of earth, no matter what you may call that as, for me it's King Gob. For others it may be Belial. And if you go into Connolly's description of Belial as the elemental king of earth, it is very much that short gnomish type of appearance, which is the same as King Gob. So the elemental king of earth is a gnome. So yeah, the easiest thing to do would be to go speak to him, and then you'll get a really good understanding of what gnomes are. But they are kind of the energy which is the earth that flows through it, is the gnome aspect. So they're not small bearded men in pointy hats living in the woods, but they are kind of short. Well, he appears short anyway. Gnomish. Yolandi, I'm willing to try and help you with your block, if you'd allow me. We can have we can have a look at that. I need to actually, as I said, I keep on kind of focusing on the practice, and then other stuff comes up, and I kind of drop it again. I need to actually stop everything else and just focus on that one particular practice, and keep, my bloody squirrel brain keeps going all over the place, and then actually do something about it, I suppose. Gills, what do you think of palmistry? I think it's fantastic. Um, I have read up on it. I haven't practiced it, um, but the stuff I read about it, it's incredible. I mean, I remember reading a story about somebody who went to a palm reader, and the kind of ethical. If you see health problems, don't kind of say you're going to have a heart attack. Kind of suggest go to the doctor, have your heart checked out, just in case, just seeing something that might be a bit of a concern. Just go get it checked out. Don't go and tell them they're going to die in 6 months' time, for instance. But the person did see something wrong with the reader saw something wrong with the person's heart, and so they said, go to the doctor, get your heart checked out and everything else. And they did, and they got the treatment that they needed before anything bad happened, and they lived a long time. But 5 years later, the person came back for the palm reading, and the lifeline, everything had changed on the person's hand, because if they hadn't have treated it, it's the same with tarot reading, really. You're following a current of energy, following a line. You're like walking along this path, and if you don't do anything about it, the outcome is X, Y, and Z, and that's what we see in our palms of tarot reading, etc., etc., etc. That's what divination is for. But because you are now forewarned, you now have the knowledge of what's coming, you can then do magic, whatever that looks like for you, to avert that, to change it, to change directions, or go over it, or go through it, blast your way through it, whatever it is. But you can do something to change that situation, and therefore the path then changes. So this is why we do divination, and this is why we do magic, to navigate our way through life. So palmistry is just one of those things, and the course that, the current or the path that you're walking along can change, and this is why things like lines on the palm can change, because the path that you were following at the time has now altered because you were forewarned of something, and because it's altered, all the lines on the palm change, because now it's got a new path that you're on. So it's fascinating, absolutely. I do find divination, all methods of divination, fascinating. I'm just not a diviner. It's just not where my skills lie. Muffet, if one would want to fly into a magical fairyland, where would one go? To what plane of existence, and how to go about it? If you want to go to fairyland, go to England, find a burrow, and sit on top of the burrow for the evening. You can specifically do this during a Sabbath or something like that. Samhain is a really good time to do this. But find a burrow, sit on top of it. You may go to fairyland. You may end up completely insane. But you may get inspiration. This is what bards did, by the way. I'm sure they still do it as well. You can also do things like burn your finger and put it in your mouth and suck and go into a trance state while you're on the mound. Those things. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. But otherwise, you can just do work to cross the hedge and go and meet the fairies, go and meet the fae, go and meet the other people, the good people. I don't actually like being called fae and fairy. They are the good company. Yeah, and be respectful as well. Otherwise, they could kill you. Learn your law before you go and do things like that. I know you're asking all these really funny, weird questions to try and push my buttons, but you're asking quite valid questions, actually. Richard, I kind of read my own palms, and it has changed over the years. Oh, nice. I didn't know you read palms. Yeah, yeah, no, I can definitely imagine it would. As I said, I mean, we kind of forewarned of something, and therefore we change our path, and things change. You Yolandi, I see tarot work because everything is made up of atoms. Atoms is energy, energy connect to energy. Oh yes, yeah, definitely view it in that regard. And then you can take it down to vibration and sound, which is my favorite area, obviously. Because if you go into the atom, you have all of the proton and the neutron and the electrons and all of that stuff. And then you go further into that and you get all the quarks and all of that stuff. And then you go into that, you have the, still theory, but you have the string, which is it's just a tiny vibrating string, and it vibrates at a particular frequency. So all of that stuff, everything vibrates. Yolanda, you take gifts for the fairies. Yeah, absolutely. And Fat Mucker said, I'm actually kind of serious. I know you are, but it's the way you're wording it is that I think somebody else may have got a bit upset by it now. But there really are valid questions, actually. But when let's talk about working with the Fae. So if you're going to work with the Fae, there's a particular law that you want to follow, because working with Fae can be incredibly dangerous, actually. And if you don't follow the law, what you can get. So I actually had a friend years ago who got taken by the Fae, and I had to go do work to bring her back because she was starting to get really, really ill and sick. You have all of the old myths and stories of Fae literally picking people up physically and dropping them from a height into like thorn bushes and stuff. So yeah, they are kind of between realm beings. So you can kind of shift yourself into their realm, but they can also shift quite easily into ours. And they go back and forth, and they can pop in and out a lot easier than we can. So it gets kind of fun, but yeah, if you don't follow the law properly, you can be in a whole lot of trouble. What happened to her? Oh, well, I did see that. What happened to her? She did some work with the Fae, and she got taken. As far as I remember, this was a long time ago. As far as I remember, she ate something when she was there. You do not eat things when you're in the fairyland, and they usually like to offer it to you. And she ate something, and she didn't come back fully. So she was still functioning, obviously, in our everyday world, but she just, over about 2-3 week period, she just really started getting ill, and she was drained and she could hardly stand up, and we kind of figured out what was going on. So I took a journey and brought her soul fragment back. Yeah, that was kind of scary, actually. Where am I? Andrea, the good folk have very different rules, and human logic really doesn't apply to. No, absolutely not. And I mean, it's even things like there's kind of small things that you have to be very careful of, like thanking them, the way you actually interact with them. I can't remember what it is exactly. Go and read, if you're interested in this stuff, go and read anything by Morgan Daimler. She is an expert on the topic. But also, I think what we need to bear in mind is that when we talk about the Fae, it's usually in relation to European fairy. But there's still Fae or little folk, otherworldly beings that we interact with throughout the world. Here in South Africa with the Zulu people, when they kind of talk about where a Celtic person might talk about land spirits or the guardian of a forest or something like that. The Zulu people will talk about the same type of thing. There's this being, this entity which kind of guards an area or space, like a land spirit would. But they're very different. They interact very differently. They're kind of impish, like almost like naughty children. And you give them offerings to appease them and to kind of keep them quiet almost. So the interaction with them is very different to Fae or land spirits in Europe, especially land spirits. You approach them extremely differently. If you then consider if the jinn in the Arabian countries are the same type of thing as the Fae, again, that's completely different interactions, and there's races of Fae. But when you read a lot of the old mythological stories of the Jinn and the Fae, they're actually very, very similar. I mean, even like I was saying, there's the old stories of them like picking people up and dropping them from a dizzy height into a thorn bush or something. You get those stories in both Europe and in the stories about the Jinn. So it's definitely not the same as working with gods and goddesses. I think when we're talking about the spirits like the in the Ars Goetia, those spirits are often referred to as being jinn. Others refer to them as being Nephilim. Nephilim being the offspring of the Watchers who impregnated human women. So how we view that is very different again. But those spirits when we work with them, they're very different to if we were working with a particular race of jinn. Can't think of the race's names now. I haven't done that in a long time. It's actually an area I don't even go into because there's not enough information about the jinn to form any kind of real practice unless you actually work with somebody who is from that culture. But there just isn't enough information. Well, there's some books out there, but I wouldn't rely on them. I think there's a whole level of practice and understanding and interaction with those particular spirits that is just kept secret. It's still word of mouth type of knowledge passing. But anyway. Richard, and you do not give your name as far as I remember. As that's more along the lines of your true name, and when we're talking about true names, that's usually in reference to something like your higher self, your holy guardian angel, your personal daimon, and this is where the idea of the fetch mate comes in. The fetch mate is often called the fairy companion in particular traditions, and there is lore which revolves around the idea that we have a fairy companion, which is the other half of our soul. The problem here is that this kind of differs from person to person and region to region, and so this is my understanding of it, is that we have a fairy companion, this is the other half of our soul, and we then go into a sacred union or sacred marriage in order to bring the soul parts together into one union. And I believe, anyway, obviously this is a theory of mine, that what happens is we're in this physical world and our fey companion is in the other world, and we experience the two worlds simultaneously. But when I die, I then become Fey and Ancestor, and what happens is then there's a switch, so the Fey companion gets born into a physical body, and we have this switch that keeps going on, and then because we have kind of reset, we have to find each other again. We keep going through the cycle over and over and over. But that's just one theory. There's lots and lots of different theories. Oh, but yeah, no. So the name thing is, as far as I remember, it's got to do with true names. If you have the true name of something, or a Fae has the true name, your true name, there you've got control, total control over that person or thing. Um, and this becomes interesting when you get into astrology, actually, if you do it properly, because you can actually find the name of of a thing or person's personal daimon through astrology, and that's used as their true name, as far as I know. So yeah, astrology is a very powerful thing. Yolandi, I read that the tooth fairies are linked to the bone fairies, but bone fairies are dangerous, teeth fairies are friendly. I haven't heard of bone fairies actually. I can't think of what the bone fairies would be. Andrea, I never say sorry or thank you. Best to learn as much as possible about them. Oh yeah, no. Well, what it was about thank you, if you say thank you, it's considered some kind of contract that you are then tied into. And it's because of the understanding of, if you say thank you, that means that you've received something, and therefore you have created a contract, which gets a bit tricky. So you have to say, you have to thank them in a particular manner, in a particular way. It gets very involved, but it's cool. Andrea, me. Perhaps you could do a deep dive about Fae, like you did with vampires. Yeah, maybe I should. I'll read up some more of, refresh my memory with some Morgan Daimler stuff. There was another person as well. I can't remember the name now. Anyway, Yolandi maybe tried to speak to a Muslim holy man with respect to him. What usually happens is you get blocked because they are terrified, absolutely terrified of that particular practice. There's a huge part of the Muslim Islamic faith is that the jinn are evil, and you do not interact with them. So it would be very, very difficult to find anybody in that regard. Andrea, I appreciate that. Yes, absolutely. There we go. I appreciate that. Yeah. I think a bit like an Irishman. I appreciate that. Yes. Yolandi, I wish I could see the nature spirits more often. Yeah, I don't actually. I experience them as kind of forces of energy. Just always think about that time I walked into that wall of energy, and I knew if I crossed it, I would have been. They would have killed me. I would have been gone. So I had to do what I said I was going to do before I could actually pass through. It was very interesting. Oh, blimey, it's after 9 o'clock. I'm going to have to go to bed soon. In fact, my pet Sufi Muslims or magicians. Yeah, do you know anybody? Any of them? Get really involved in that. Because yeah, I just don't know any of them. I'm sure I ever will. Nandi, I can try and see if I can find someone who will talk to you. Yeah, if you can. But just be careful. If you start bringing up topics like gin and stuff, you sometimes end up a bit of a difficult situation, actually. So just be careful with who you speak to. You don't want to offend anybody, and you don't want to get yourself into one of those difficult places. Jono, Uncle, you mind me advertising my first magical mentors here? No, absolutely not. They should be live on YouTube later tonight. She specialises in the Fae folk, extremely knowledgeable about Fae stuff. No, go for it. You probably won't be able to drop a link. Trying to think how you can do it. If you split it up, you can always put it together in the chat. Just see if you can. I don't think you can drop a link though. I don't think there's another way. I think drop the link and then oh, there we go. Just search this and see if I can find the link for everybody, make it easier. Only you and admin can post links. Yeah, that's what I thought. Stops all the